Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday morning, and we are actually going to bring our book to an end this morning. We found out on Friday, just at the very end, that Poppy was alive. Of course, we knew that. The family just didn't. So let's start with chapter 33. Poppy alive. All the mice swung around to see who had called. There, at the back of the dell, stood Poppy. By her side was Spruce. There was a great gasp of shock and surprise. Ereth leaned forward and, seeing Poppy, bellowed, "Poppy! You suffocating sack of squirrel spit, is that you or your ghost?" "Why, it's me, of course," returned Poppy. "Who else would I be?" "But I saw your ghost vanish into the sky," yelled Ereth. "You're supposed to be dead." "Dead? Ghost? Ereth, I never heard of anything so silly. Look at me, for goodness sakes. I'm very much alive." "Then you're fake alive," screamed Ereth, "and that's worse than being dead." By the time Junior had found his voice and was able to say, "But Mom..." "Never mind, Ereth. Where were you? What happened?" "Junior, please tell me what's going on here." "Uncle Ereth told us that he saw your ghost flying up in the air." "Well, though I did go up into the sky, I certainly am not a ghost." "Dad," shouted Spruce, "it was bats who taught Grandma to fly." "Junior," said Poppy, "aren't you pleased that I'm alive?" "Well, yes, of course," cried Junior. "Very happy, aren't we?" he said to the crowd. "Yes, of course, absolutely." "And I'm so glad that Spruce is with you," said Laurel. "Spruce," said Junior, "we were getting worried. Where did you go?" "I had to find where Grandma landed after her flying." "And did you?" "As a matter of fact," said Poppy, "he did, but never mind. Do you have any idea what's happening?" "What's happening, baboon bottom brain?" shrieked Ereth. "Is that we're in the middle of your funeral. In fact, I just gave a beautiful speech about you. I even learned to smile because you died. What a waste. Let me tell you right now, I have no intention of smiling again. Not even when I die." "But if we don't hurry," cried Poppy, "we will be dead. All of us. The forest is on fire." "Fire!" someone shouted. "Did she say fire?" called another. "What fire? Where's the fire? I don't see any fire." Spruce, standing next to Poppy, yelled, "Everybody, listen to Grandma. The forest is really burning. I saw it. Listen to Grandma. She always knows what to do." Truly came the frightened voices of the mice. "Honestly, not a joke. First she says she isn't dead. Then she said we will be dead. I don't get it. What's happening?" "There is a fire," cried Poppy over the chatter, "and every minute we stand here, it's getting closer." The mice began to scream, shout, and cry. "Where do we go? What do we do? What about my home? We're doomed. We'll be killed. Let me out of here. Not that way, this way. Which way should we run? Somebody help! Help!" Junior leaped up on the boulder. Standing next to Ereth, he called across the teeming dell, "Mom, Poppy, where's the fire coming from?" From Bannock Hill, Poppy called back over the frightened, jabbering mice. It's leaped Glitter Creek and is coming this way, spreading quickly in all directions. Ereth, who had been staring at Poppy with a mixture of fury and disbelief, looked up. He could see now that the sky was full of billowing, churning, dark smoke. When he looked in the direction of the creek, he saw spikes of flame cutting through the trees. Thundering turtle toilets, he cried. Poppy's right. Look, the whole forest is on fire. Now the sounds of burning were unmistakable. The snapping, crackling, and crashing of falling trees seemed to come from every which way. How do we get away? Can we escape? Should we go now? Should we stay? Poppy, standing as tall as she could, called to her children across the dell. Mariposa, strawberry, snowberry, walnut, columbine, sassafras, crabgrass, pipsawea, verbena, scrub oak, locust, junior, each of you head off in different directions. Find where the fire has reached, where it's heading. Then get right back here and tell us. See if there's a way out. Poppy's children scattered. When they had gone, Poppy made her way through the crowd, reassuring now one mouse, now another, telling each one to keep calm, that they would all surely find a way to escape. Spruce stayed by her side. Reaching the other end of the dell, Poppy climbed up on the rock where Ereth was still sitting. Ereth, she said, I'm so glad to see you. She reached up and kissed his nose. Glad, he cried, rubbing the kiss away. I want to know where you went. Here I've been. Ereth, said Poppy, we'll talk later. We've got to deal with the fire. Mom, came a call from across the dell. Scrub Oak had returned from scouting. The fire is only about 100 yards that way, he yelled, pointing. The next moment, Pipsawea appeared, coming in from another direction. The fire is over there, she called. One by one, Poppy's children returned. Each had the same message. The fire had spread all around them. They were surrounded. And there's Ereth and Poppy, both looking very concerned about what's going on. Chapter 34, Surrounded. Poppy stood on the rock beside Ereth. All the mice were staring at her, as if she would know what to do, as if she would know some way of escape. She gazed around. Through the ring of trees surrounding the dell, she saw flames leaping and darting, moving about like mad dancers to the sound of the all-consuming fire and roaring wind. Within the dell, the air was growing thicker and heavier with smoke. The heat was almost unbearable. Grandma Poppy, cried Spruce. He had been telling his brothers and sisters about his adventure, but seeing Poppy on the rock, he ran over to her. Spruce, I'm trying to decide what we can do. I thought of what to do, Spruce shouted to her. Call your bat friends. Get them to fly us all out of here. Poppy stared at Bruce. Then she said, Spruce, that's a wonderful idea. Brilliant. Everybody, she cried out, listen to me. There is a way to get out of here. We need to call. Call whom? Cried someone. A friend of mine, Poppy replied. Lucy. Who's Lucy? What's this Lucy going to do? Never mind, Lucy. We've got to get out of here. No, no, shouted Poppy over the increasing din. It's the only way. It's Spruce's clever idea, but we have to do it all together, as loud and as high as we can. Shout, Lucy! Lifting her head, Poppy began to shout in her loudest voice, Lucy! Lucy! Spruce was the next to take up the call. Lucy, he called. Junior joined in, followed by Laurel and all their children. Next were the rest of Poppy's children and their children, until all the mice in the dell were crying, Lucy! Lucy! Again and again they called, while the sky grew darker and the fire crept closer. As Poppy cried, Lucy! She kept her gaze aloft, staring into the ever-thickening smoke. A shriek, squeaky voice came from above. Miss Poppy, what's happening? The young bat swooped in and landed on the rock right next to Poppy. Told you I'd come if you called, but oh my gosh, this fire is awful. It's a bat, cried one of the mice and backed away. It'll kill us. Kill it first. Oh no, shouted Poppy. The bat's our friend. They'll teach us to fly, cried Spruce. Poppy turned to Lucy. Lucy, she pleaded, please, we need your help. Fly back to your cave as fast as you can. Get as many of your family as possible and bring them here. You've got to fly us out of this place. Lucy looked at Poppy and then at the mice in the dell. Really? Absolutely, said Poppy. Miss Poppy, said Lucy, there's fire all over Dim Wood Forest. It's getting hard to fly. Please, Poppy pleaded. It's the only way to save us. Please, just try. I'll be back as soon as I can, cried Lucy, and off she flew. As soon as the bat was gone, Poppy went to the edge of the rock. Everyone, she called, listen to me. The bats are my friend. They will be yours too. I'm sure they will come. When they do, don't be frightened. They can carry us to safety. They'll teach us to fly, shouted Spruce again. When they come, Poppy continued, they'll be able to pick you up by your backs. It won't hurt. I promise. I've already done it. It's the only way we're going to get out of here alive. The mice stared at her. Poppy felt a nudge from behind. It was Ereth. What about me? He whispered in a frightened voice. You can come too, but they won't be able to pick me up by my back. Poppy stared at him for a moment, then said, Ereth, it'll have to be your belly. It has no quills. It's soft. My belly? He roared. Ereth, it's the only way. Pickled pink pockets, cried Ereth, backing away. I can't. I won't. It's not right. It's humiliating. It's one of my tender spots. Everybody will laugh at me. They won't. Well, Ereth, listen to me. I've been to the bat cave. Have you any idea what's there? I don't care. You do. Don't. It's salt, she cried. Ereth stopped moving away. He peered at Poppy through the thickening gloom. Did you say salt? Yes, right there in the bat cave. I've never seen so much. A whole beach of soft salt. Ereth stared at her. He began to salivate. A whole beach of salt? I'm looking to see if the hummingbird's here because the dog's looking at the hummingbird feeder. Enough for the rest of my life? The bats, came a cry. They're back, look at them. Poppy looked up. Down through the clouds of swirling hot smoke fluttered hundreds of bats into the dell. Their wings beat the air, pushing the smoke away. We're here, we've come, their voices cried high and shrill. Lie down, Poppy shouted to the mice quickly. Let them grab you by your backs. Hurry. It was hard to know who squeaked more, the bats or the mice. But as the bats hovered over the dell, dipping and diving, Poppy could see one mouse after another lifted away. Most were carried the way she had been, by the back. In 2 instances, she saw small great-grandchildren carried by their tails. At one point, she was sure she heard Spruce shout, "Hey, I'm flying like Grandma!" Miss Poppy, Lucy called, "What about this huge prickly mouse?" Poppy turned. There was Ereth. He was alternately cowering in the midst of some 24 bats, then spinning and smacking about with his tail. The bats kept approaching the porcupine, only to leap away when he lashed out. "Ereth," cried Poppy, "stop! Be calm, just roll over. It's the only way they can pick you up." "Toenail toothpaste," bellowed the porcupine. "It's insulting, humiliating." "Salt, Ereth," cried Poppy. "Think about the salt. Salt enough for the rest of your life." Ereth blinked at Poppy, then drooling a little and muttering, "Salt. Salt for the rest of my life. Salt for the rest of my life." He rolled over and stuck his 4 feet straight up in the air. Bats instantly clustered over his belly. Poppy saw Ereth rising upside down in the air. "Great globs of chicken cheese," Ereth bellowed as he disappeared up into the smoke. "This tickles." "That's everybody but you, Miss Poppy," Poppy heard Lucy say into her ear. Poppy took one more look around the dell. She was indeed the last one. The flames had crept in very close and had reached the base of the boulder. The howl of burning filled her ears. Each second the air grew hotter, scorching hot, so hot her whiskers curled. Even as she gazed about, the tree surrounding the dell exploded into flames. She looked at Lucy, nodded, and then offered her back. The young bat sprang over her and gripped her fur. "Ready, Moth Mouse?" "Ready as I'll ever be," said Poppy. Lucy unfolded her leathery wings, flapped them furiously, and soared up in a tight spiral. Poppy, eyes closed, felt the terrible heat and the buffeting winds. She smelled the acrid stench of burning. Then the heat and the stench retreated. Though her eyes still smarted from the dense smoke, at last, when fresher wind blew into her face, Poppy opened her eyes, looked down, and gasped. All of Dimwood Forest was burning. Flames lit the sky, reaching enormous heights of it, trying to pull it down. Black, gray, and white smoke billowed and rolled. Patches of smoldering scarlet dotted the earth like a glowing, crazy quilt. It will all of it, be gone, Poppy whispered. Then she looked ahead and saw the swarm of bats carrying her family to safety. Amid them, she could see the bulging bulk that was Ereth, and she was almost certain she could hear him bellowing, "Bring me to the salt." When Poppy looked down again, her tears of sadness, tears of relief, fell. Whether they reached the burning forest, she never knew. Here's the bats carrying Ereth upside down. Chapter 35, The End. For 5 days the fire raged, roared, and ravaged Dimwood Forest, and then gradually died away. On the 6th day, curls of smoke continued to trickle upward, like whispered memories, while the charred trees stood like tall, crooked skeletons. Nothing moved. The earth was burnt over black. The land was silent and hot. Dimwood Forest was no more. On the 7th day, rain began to fall. It fell softly, as if the sky were kissing the earth. Here's a picture of what Dimwood Forest looked like after the fire went through, and I have a connection with that picture. When I was a small girl, my dad had a cabin in Canada, and we would go up there every year. And one year, as we were at the cabin, we had heard that there was a big forest fire that had gone through, and the road was closed. And my dad made the comment it was on our way home, so he didn't know whether it would affect us getting home or not. Well, by the time we got ready to leave the cabin, they had opened the road back up, and the dangerous part of the fire was gone, but you could still see the charred trees and some things still smoldering, because even though the major part of the fire was out, there were still some stumps and pieces of wood that were still lying on the ground smoldering. And my dad stopped the car so we could get out, and you could still feel a little bit of heat from the things that were still on fire. And it was a very eerie thing to witness, because everything was gone. Everything had burnt. All the animals had to leave. So it's very sad for a fire to go through, but that's kind of how forests get replenished. Lightning strikes a tree and it catches on fire and the forest burns, and then as the rain comes, things begin to get moist again and regrow, and the forest eventually will grow back up. Chapter 36, The Beginning. It took a full month for the smoldering ground that had been Dimwood Forest to cool. Gradually the mice began to emerge from the bat cave. Though there were those who went elsewhere, Some made their way back to the places they had once lived. Slowly, excuse me, their lives resumed. Among those who returned to the forest area were Poppy and her immediate family and Ereth. The old porcupine was pleased that Poppy had not died, pleased that he did not have to smile anymore, pleased that he was free to swear again, pleased to know where he had a life supply of salt. One day Poppy was sitting on a rock, surveying the fire's destruction, when Bounder appeared quite suddenly and sat down before her. "Glad to see you're okay," he said. "You too," returned Poppy. "Bounder, I can't thank you enough. That was quite a ride." "It sure was," said the fox. "Were your children all right?" asked Poppy. "Sure. A little singed, but fine. Yours?" "Very much so. Thanks to you, everyone was saved." "Glad to hear it." Bounder stood up. "Hey, Mouse," he said with a toothy grin. "I'll catch you next time." He turned and trotted away. Just before he took a bend in the path, he looked back, winked, wagged his tail, and then went on. Poppy never saw Bounder again. It was a week later, twilight. The air was sweet and dew-laden. The sun, setting in the west, filled the cloud-laced sky with strokes of purple and orange. Poppy and Ereth sat atop Bannock Hill. Spruce was with them. For a long while they sat in silence. Then suddenly Poppy cried, "Ereth, Spruce, look over there." Spruce looked where Poppy pointed, but the porcupine only muttered, "Toasted tiddlywinks on toast. I don't feel like looking at anything." "No, really, Ereth, you must look," insisted Poppy, and she scampered a few feet. "Please come over here," Spruce joined her. With a loud grunt, Ereth heaved himself up and waddled reluctantly to where Poppy was peering down at the ground. "What is it?" he demanded. "Just look," she insisted. Ereth and Spruce stared where Poppy was pointing. A tiny green shoot, no more than an inch high, had pushed up through the blackened earth. "Things are starting to grow again," cried Poppy. "Does that mean the whole forest will come back?" asked Spruce. "I think so," said Poppy. "So what?" murmured Ereth. "You won't be here." "Ereth," said Poppy, "how many times do I have to tell you? I need to go to another place for a while. I want to see what else there is in the world before I get too old." And Spruce said he would come with me. "Why Spruce?" demanded Ereth. "A mouse has to do what a mouse has to do," Spruce said. "That's not you talking. That's ragweed," Ereth grumbled. "Always ragweed." Hold on. "Grandma says you should come too," said Spruce. Ereth turned to Poppy. "Why can't you stay here?" he demanded. "Because when I visited the Bat Cave, I learned that there's a whole lot beyond Dimwood Forest. I want to see even more." "How are you going to do that?" Ereth returned to Poppy. With the forest gone, the bats can't find enough insects to live on. They've found a new home in an old mine in another forest some miles from here. I'm going with them. You're not a bat, said Ereth. I like bats, said Spruce. They're fun. Lucy takes me flying all the time. We're best friends. We're going to have adventures. Ereth, said Poppy. It's like what Old Wings said. As long as you try, you're young. Now it's twilight. Lucy will be here in a few minutes to take me. I wish you would come with us. Uncle Ereth, the bats offered to take you too, said Spruce. Ereth shook his head. I'm never flying again. Walk then, said Poppy. I told you how to get there. It's not that far. Go straight north. I'm too old to move, Ereth objected. Anyway, there's all the salt you found me. I'd be a fool to leave that. Then, Ereth, at least promise me that you'll visit. Greedy green geese. I'm not promising anything to anyone. Then, my dear, dear friend, we'll have to say goodbye. I said goodbye to you once, cried Ereth. I don't intend to say it again. Then what else can we say, asked Poppy, her eyes filling with tears. Nothing, snapped Ereth. Just go. Forget about me. I'll forget you too. Have yourself a grand old time. So will I. Poppy peered up into Ereth's face. Oh, Ereth, I do love you, she said. You really have been the best of friends. Thank you for always being you. Just go, shouted the porcupine. Oh, I hate it when I'm reading books and I start crying. Even as they stared at each other, Lucy and another bat arrived in a flutter of wings. Miss Poppy, said Lucy. Spruce, we're here. Are you ready? Almost, said Poppy. She stood up on her rear toes and gave Ereth a kiss on the tip of his nose. Goodbye, my dear, dear friend, she said. I will always miss you. Whoops. Didn't take the lid off my drink. Go away, yelled Ereth, and he turned his prickly back on her. I will, said Poppy. To Lucy, she said, I'm ready. Bye, Mr. Ereth, called Lucy. If you change your mind, you can come too. We'll take you, she giggled. Belly up. Never, growled Ereth. Poppy laid down. Lucy hovered over her, gripped her back as gently as she could, and lifted her in the air. The other bat did the same to Spruce. Goodbye, Ereth, Poppy called down as she and Lucy circled upward. Goodbye. Goodbye, Uncle Ereth, called Spruce, and off they flew. Ereth turned and stared after Poppy, watching as she headed north, then disappeared into the sky. The old porcupine shifted about and gazed in the direction of the bat cave, where all the salt was waiting for him. Enough salt for the rest of his life. 10 lives. He shut his eyes and lifted a paw to touch the tip of his nose. Suddenly, Ereth opened his eyes and bellowed, Baggy buffalo boxers, Poppy, Spruce, you tiny tufts of tinsel wits, wait! I've changed my mind, I'm coming too. and the porcupine began to run in a northerly direction. And there is Ereth chasing after the bats and Poppy and Spruce. And, the last chapter, chapter 37, is called Rise Poem. Ice leaf, a green summer leaf embraced by the frozen ice, keeps memories warm. And that's the end of the Poppy series by Avi. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I first quit laughing at me. My husband just walked in and could tell that I have tears in my eyes, so he thinks it's funny. I began reading Ragweed, golly, probably 5 years ago for a guided reading group, and had never finished this series and always wanted to do it. And I'm really glad that I got to do it this summer with all of you. I think I'm going to give us a little bit of a rest now. We've got 3 weeks till school starts. Yay, boo, whatever. And you can go to your libraries now. You can get a good ebook to read on Access 360. So don't stop reading, but I'll see you back at school in just 3 or 4 weeks. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.